Thanks for checking out Inside the Zone here on Wayne.com for week 3 of the high school football season. And really, in a way, for the ACAC and the Northeast State, the second season of sorts begins this week because conference play gets going in those two conferences. We've had conference play in the SAC already, but we're going to go heavy on the Northeast State and the ACAC as non-conference is already wrapped up. And when we start on the Northeast State, our highlight zone game of the week is going to be two 2-0 teams. We're talking about Leo at Norwell. Norwell, maybe not a surprise that they're 2-0, but they've been dominant.
They have been, right?
And Leo has been dominant with the even tougher schedule. So how do you see this one playing out, and kind of what's your take on Leo going to Norwell in what should be an exciting day for the Knights as they open up that new turf down at the courtyard?
Yeah, a lot of excitement down in Ossian, or is it Uniondale officially?
Ooh, that's a good point. We'll have our surveyor down there.
Yeah, we'll see just where the lines are drawn, but being able to open that the new turf at the stadium is going to be a lot of excitement. We've seen other teams kind of feed off those kind of big events earlier in the year. Northrop looked good for a quarter. Bishop DeWinger, obviously, a lot of excitement last Friday, so maybe Norwell can have a little excitement turn into maybe an upset on the field. We'll see.
Yeah, and the thing that strikes me about Leo is I remember at the beginning of the year, this is why we don't put money down on these teams. We're like, how are they going to be without A.J. Restivo at quarterback? Or is the offense going to be okay? Peyton Wall apparently cannot be tackled.
Nope.
He's got over 400 yards rushing in the first 2 games. And they've beaten a good Angola program and a pretty solid Woodland program in back-to-back weeks. How do you see Leo heading into this game knowing that, maybe they weren't the big dog in this conference we thought at the beginning of the year? Maybe East Noble had that title, but they've played like it so far this season.
Definitely have. In dominant fashion, you mentioned Peyton Wall, who's been so good. Playing a little, back and forth with the quarterbacks. A senior gets some playing time, and the sophomore kind of going back and forth with that. It's worked out through 2 games, and all of a sudden we're looking at that East Noble game looming here in a week or two as that game to watch in the NE8.
Yeah, let's move on to Huntington North at East Noble because East Noble, I think most people pick them as the team to beat in this conference based on their history and returning perhaps the best starting quarterback in the Northeast State and one of the best, no doubt, in the area.
I think you can make a case.
I was just about to say, I was like,
you're probably going through the quarterbacks and saying who's better.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can find anybody.
Well, Huntington North has gotten kind of a shot in the arm. I like Bob Prescott. I was out at a practice, just a positive vibe around the team. And although they got beat week 1 at Warsaw, they bounced back with a 56-0 win this past week. So things are headed in the right direction over there. But East Noble has had, I don't know if there's a team out there that has had a better non-conference season than East Noble with the wins against Mishawaka and then a good one on the road against Plymouth in week 1.
There's no team that has a more impressive 2-0 right now in the area than East Noble. That's not to say that they're the best team in the area. I think they're in the conversation. But in terms of quality wins, being able to knock off, Mishawaka was obviously a big win. Plymouth to open the season on the road, coming back from a second half deficit. So when you look at East Noble, you have to say, man, that 2-0, very, very impressive. Huntington North in the right direction with Bob Prescott, but still a year or 2 away from competing with East Noble.
Yeah, when you take a look at East Noble, what is it that has their mojo going? Because they've got Hayden Jones at receiver, they got the Ernstberger kid, they got Bailey Parker. It just seems like whenever they lose guys, they replace guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
Luke Amslis has the magic going up there in
that
country.
In Kendallville, like Van Gorder stepped in really good at running back, and so they're leading tackler on defense as well. So just being able to reload as a program that's reached that point. And Luke Amstis has done a phenomenal job. Of course, Chris Depew even before him. So a lot of positive vibes over the history of East Noble the last decade, 15 years. And they continue to roll, and they look right now to be the favorite in the Northeast State.
And next week, they'll be taking on DeKalb. Let's talk a little bit about the Barons, because you and I both really like this team coming in. And I think they've proven a lot of the people that were high on them right. Offensively, they're a big play offense. They get some chunk yardage, but they can also grind it out with a couple of running backs.
I think you look at Corey Price, a guy that was the bona fide #1 quarterback, and then Evan Eschbach transfers in, and then that's a difficult position for a guy like Corey Price to be in. Yet they have some packages for him at quarterback, particularly in the read option game, and they'll run some plays off him. Was able to score a touchdown last Friday. So good on you, Corey Price. We see so many kids, and at all levels, when a quarterback comes in, they automatically check out, right? If their quarterback starting spot is in danger or even gone, they check out. Corey Price, still there, still zoned in, still doing what he needs to do for that team to win. it's a really admirable trade out of that kid.
They got the Rhodes kid, they got the Jack kid, they got the Miller kid, they got all kinds
They
of
got a
guys.
bunch of kids.
Yeah, they got a bunch of kids.
They do.
Making plays, and it's been nice to see Pete Kemp, great guy.
Yeah.
You like to see him doing well. But they're traveling to a team this week in New Haven who, I mean, their schedule was tough, but you didn't expect them to be 0-2, I guess,
Right.
at this point.
I didn't expect such a lopsided game last week
Yeah.
at Mississinawa. I thought there was a chance the New Haven lost, but I think New Haven's a bad team, but I think they've taken a step back. And now you're kind of looking at it and go, man, are they going to be able to finish with a 500 record in the NE8? They went 3-4 last year. Are they going to follow up back-to-back years sub 500 in the conference? DeKalb is no pushover on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, you're replacing your quarterback in Tim Jordan. You're replacing maybe the top wide receiver in the conference last year in Kentrell Thomas. You're replacing a running back in Stephen Owens. They had a lot of guys to replace at New Haven. So new guys in different spots, but the conference play begins for them this Friday, as it does with everybody in the Northeast State. And then here's a 2-0 team that I think has flown a bit under the radar, but Columbia City.
How about that?
Off to a nice start. They travel all the way to Hammond Gavitt, pick up a win there, and then win a game at home in their home opener last week. They traveled to Belmont, and Belmont has not gotten off to the start that they were hoping to under the Eric Davis era. But let's talk about Columbia City, because what do you see this team doing well, other than the fact that they've got a 6'4" sophomore quarterback named Gregory Bolt that can let it fly and run it a little bit too.
And he has a great wide receiver in Michael Sievers to throw to. If Greg Bolt was in the SAC, everybody would be talking about him because he has the, like you said, 6'4", prototypical quarterback body. He has an arm on him. He's only a sophomore. He's getting looks from D1 schools. I mean, he would be the it kid in that class if he was in the SAC. But he's at Columbia City, so he goes really
Jeff
unnoticed.
Becker might have something to say about that too.
Jeff Becker's been phenomenal too, but he would be in that conversation with Jeff
True.
Becker as the next big sophomore, next big quarterback in the SAC. And most people don't go, Gregory Bolt, I have no idea who that kid is, but he's thrown for, 7 touchdowns through the first 2 games. I mean, he's been phenomenal, and he'll keep it rolling this week.
I remember interviewing Max Bedwell out there in preseason. He says, we think we have the best wide receiving core in the Northeast State. And I was like, I don't know about. And then you start to think about it. Michael Sievers is a big guy with speed. He's going to get a chance to play in college. I know Marion's high on him. You got the Gillis kid. That can make some really big plays. He's also about 6'1", 6'2".
Yep.
You've got Max Bedwell, who's made some big plays. He's money on the 2-point conversions we've seen in the past. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they do have the deepest wide receiving core in the Northeast.
I would agree. And they have an ultra-talented quarterback throwing to him, similar to look at East Noble's skill position in terms of Bailey Parker throwing to a wealth of talent on the outside.
All right, so as we enter the Northeast State Conference play, is East Noble still the team to beat, or is the gap a little closer maybe between DeKalb, Leo, because those two teams have certainly impressed in the non-conference?
I do think East Noble is the favorite, but I do think the gap isn't as large as we thought it would be because Leo has been so impressive through the first 2 weeks. DeKalb, I think, is ahead of schedule in what they've done. I think Columbia City is ahead of schedule as well. So I still think it's a 2-horse race with East Noble and Leo, but a couple of those other teams could surprise if a team's not ready to play them.
Let's talk about the ACAC now because they open conference play. Obviously 7 teams, so only 3 conference games this week, 1 out-of-conference game, which actually may be the best game of them all. But South Adams is at Bluffton. We're talking about a Bluffton team off to a 2-0 start, wins against Manchester, win against Northfield. And then South Adams, who has really hit the ground running, especially now that they've got Mr. Arnold back in there at the quarterback position. James Arnold, the junior, apparently can sling it a little bit.
He can. Aiden Warner did a tremendous job in week 1 filling in for James Arnold as he continued to come back from that injury. But it's a South Adams team that really looks like the cream of the crop in the ACAC. If they could get a challenge from Adams Central at some point. But Bluffton, too. We were really zeroing in on Coach Kunkel in the offseason saying, man, this team, particularly that junior class, if it grows up pretty fast, they could be really, really good. And they've gotten 2 solid wins to begin the season, but a bit step up in competition coming up on Friday.
And Cody, we always look at Bluffton. Bluffton has had a plethora of running backs.
Yeah.
And most of them have been grinded out guys. I mean, Eskridge was a speed guy,
Yeah.
as he's shown in Western Michigan, but like Lockwood was a guy that would run through the middle of the field. Everett Johnson was a grinded out guy. And it looks like Cody Middlestead may be the next guy.
And we were assuming that in going into the season. We don't know who's going to be the next prime running back for Bluffton, but we presume they're going to run for 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just
That's what you do.
happens. So Cody Middlestead is that kid, right? It's the kid that when Dwayne Eskridge left, we didn't know anything about Brandon Lockwood. When Lockwood left, we didn't know much about Everett Johnson. And here we are once again being educated by Coach Kunks.
But I think that it's nice because, 6-7 years ago, you couldn't, I guess, put a trademark on Bluffton football. And now they've got a power running game. They have running backs. They have guys. They can score. Like, it's nice to see them develop an identity.
Yeah, and it's a part of the area where we think, man, there's a lot of talent in and around Bluffton. If they can just get it out on the field and put it together. They got a nice turf field out there. Everybody's upgrading elsewhere. So Bluffton's already got that in place. I think they're a program on the rise under Coach Kunkel.
All right, Woodland at Heritage, another ACAC game. And Woodland has not come out with the type of season that you would have thought. They have not scored yet.
They've not scored.
Now, Marion Local is a pretty good team over in Ohio.
Leo's a good team.
And Leo's a good
week
team.
One, so.
Yeah, but you would like to see, with the offensive firepower that you assume that they have, you would think that Woodland would have put a touchdown on the board, right?
You would hope so, but that means I think it's bad news for Heritage. I think all that pent-up anger and energy in the last 2 weeks is just going to explode on Friday night.
Yikes.
And I think Woodland breaks out. I had a coach text me over the weekend, said, look out for Woodland. I mean, we kind of count them out, but they're 0-0 in the ACAC, and I think they're going to be very, very, very upset.
Well, you got to figure they're due to break out. You got a couple of Reedies in there. You got some talented guys. Like, this is not an offense. Sherwood Haydock knows how to coach football. This is not an offense that will be stifled every week.
Well, they're not going to go scoreless all year. We can say that.
I feel pretty confident.
I think they come out and score potentially 3 games worth of points coming up on Friday.
All right. Monroe Central to Adams Central, around the state, this is probably the best game in 1A in the entire state. Adams Central comes in, both teams undefeated. Adams Central ranked 3rd in the 1A state poll. Monroe Central 5th. We're used to seeing these guys meet in the postseason somewhere down the line, maybe a regional. But when you take a look at this game, we had a lot of questions about Adams Central coming into the season. So far, they've answered them, and they pulled out a close win against Eastside last week, 21-14 at Eastside.
Right, not as dominant as the last couple of years for Adams Central, but it still seems like a team that has playmakers and can win games. I think it's a better indication this week on where Adams Central is at when we saw AC really able to dominate Monroe Central when they played them last couple of years. So where do they go now? I feel like it's a good matchup for the Flying Jets to see just where they're at now before they get into their conference season week 4.
You had to be a Jets fan before the season if you knew who Dallas Schwaller was, if you knew who Blake Hirely was.
Yeah.
Those guys have really stepped into the roles, the Hammond role at the quarterback, the Parker. I mean, like, those guys are gone. Logan Macklin gone. These guys are the new Logan Macklins, if you will.
Yeah, and Schwaller was one of the few seniors with any type of playing experience in the past, was able to get in at quarterback late in games last year. So this is a very small, in terms of experience, a very small senior class, too. So this is a very young Flying Jets team that's learning on the fly. They're going to make some mistakes and maybe lose a game here or two, but I don't think the drop-off is going to be as much as we thought. And maybe even Michael Mosier maybe expected a little bit more of a drop-off with his team than we've seen.
The last game in the SAC, Jay County at Southern Wells, neither one of those teams have gotten off to the start they would have liked, but Jay County has not scored and given up over 100 points. This is a big school in what is a smaller conference in terms of enrollment of the schools. Southern Wells has got Mike Roeder as the new head coach. Is this a game that Southern Wells can win?
Yeah, I think so. You look at Jay County, we felt when Leo left the ACAC, Jay County was that next school to rise and really dominate, right? The 4A school surrounded by 2As and 1As, and it hasn't happened. And why, who knows? It's just that program is not performing the way it should with its class. And I think they win this week. I think Southern Wells is kind of in a transition year trying to get Coach
Roeder.
Get
some more bodies.
Bodies is key. Coach Roeder he has a history of success. So he's a guy that can take this program to the next level. But, with enrollment being as low as it is at Southern Wells, it's tough to find bodies. So I think it's a tough year for Southern Wells, and I think Jay County gets a win.
Summing up the ACAC, you think South Adams is the team to beat? Do you think Adams Central, though, may challenge them a little bit more than we thought?
Yes, I think similar to what we thought in the NE8 with East Noble and everybody else, I think that gap isn't as wide as we thought it would be with South Adams and Adams Central, and maybe even the Bluffton.
All right. It should be an interesting year in the ACAC. SAC, here are the games this week. Carroll and Northside, the Chargers, especially considering how well they played last Friday against Snyder. They appear to be for real. Dwenger's at Southside. Lures is at Homestead. Snyder at Concordia. Wayne at Northrop. Just real quick, your thoughts on Lures at Homestead and Snyder at Concordia.
Lures at Homestead. Lures bounced back last week with a win. They needed one in the clutch. I think Homestead 2-0. They've been dominant, but maybe haven't been tested as much as some of these other schools so far through the first 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens there. I think What's the other one? I'm
Snyder at Concordia.
Snyder at Concordia. Well,
Because Concordia, I thought they would have trouble stopping people on defense,
Yeah.
but would be able to score a lot of points. And then they went out and got held to single digits last week against Homestead. Granted, Homestead's a lot bigger. You're talking about a 6A school, but I thought they would keep up with them and match them score for score offensively in the first, second quarter, maybe get worn out at the end.
yeah, I still think you're seeing a lot of new faces on the offense for Concordia. Had to replace a lot of that offensive line. New quarterback with Brandon Davis, still trying to build rapport. When we look, okay, you have Amir Drew who can run for 1,000, 1,500 yards. You feel like you're set, but there was question marks from the inside out everywhere else on that offense. I think it's going to be good enough when the postseason comes to be a threat in the class. But survive and advance is really the mantra for Concordia, particularly earlier in the year when they have to play some of these bigger schools.
And in the NECC, two matchups that really stick out to me in this week, I know they're not technically conference games, if you will, because they're cross-conference games, the big division versus the small division. Busco at Garrett and West Noble at Eastside. You're talking about Busco at Garrett. Jake Falk has been unstoppable this season. And Garrett, while they had trouble scoring the football last year, it looks like, they're back to running the football and then throwing big plays for touchdowns. I mean, how do you see this one playing out? And what's a nice rivalry for Northeast Indiana?
It is. I think, to beat Cherubusco, you're going to have to slow down Jake Falk, who almost has 600 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns in 2
over
weeks.
500 yards, yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So we know Jake Falk is good. Let's see what Cherubusco does if somebody slows down Jake Falk. I don't know if Garrett's that team to do it, but it very well could be. Should be a good environment in Garrett on Friday.
And then you got West Noble at Eastside. West Noble's won a couple of closer games than I would have thought. Wawasee was closer, and then Central Noble was closer. I thought West Noble at the beginning of the season might have been right behind Angola at the beginning of the year, but they haven't blown anyone out. I guess I'd like to see them, if you're a West Noble fan, if you're an Eastside fan, you don't.
Yeah, right.
But I'd like to see them kind of explode in a game. You know what I mean? Because you got Gross, you got Mayhorter, you got Pruitt. Like, you ought to blow some people out, man.
And who knows? Maybe West Noble's the best team in that division this year. I mean, you look at Angola. I mean, we'll see. So, yeah, West Noble. I don't know if they can break out against Eastside because they're a pretty solid team and really held tough with Adams Central last week. But I'm with you. You expect that West Noble offense to blow up at some point.
Yeah, Laban Davis has actually done a nice job for Joe White at the quarterback position, filling in for the graduated Joe White, who's playing college baseball, I believe, at IU Kokomo. I might be way wrong on that, but I'm trying to drop some NECC
If anybody
knowledge.
got to this part of the video, they probably don't even care.
Thanks, Mom. You know what I'm talking about. All right, the thing you're most looking forward to about this week is we really get conference play going in earnest around Northeast Indiana.
It's the NE8 and ACAC. Let's see how some of these teams. You look like Upstart Norwell 2-0. Man, are they for real? You look at Bluffton 2-0. And can they be for real? Some of these teams that really haven't been challenged yet, but we didn't expect to be in the conversation for a conference championship. You throw even a team like DeKalb, which we've seen them play some good teams, but are they in the upper top 3 of the NE8? That's still a question for DeKalb too. So it's kind of a down week in terms of matchups in the SAC, which means it's a perfect week to focus on the start of conference play, NE8 and ACAC, with some intriguing matchups.
All right, a lot of interesting stuff. We'll have it on the Highlight Zone Friday and then back here Monday on Inside the Zone. For Justin, I'm Glenn. I got that part right this week.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you next Monday right here on Inside the Zone.